What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly sports history for March 19th, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Tuesday edition of the podcast. It is Tuesday, so that means it's time for a little bit of positivity / motivation. And this one was an audible. I had something all lined up, and I was out on a walk this morning, and it just really hit me when I needed it the most. I used to be a very, very big runner. Ran the marathon and really haven't been right since. I ran a couple Broad Street runs and different things after that, but I seem to just, maybe it's old, maybe I just, I don't know what it is, but I keep getting hurt every time I run. So I've been doing like a lot of guided walks on Peloton and things like this. But the girl who was on the walk today said something and it just hit me in so many different aspects of life right now. And I figured I'd share it with you guys because I think you can benefit from this too, no matter where you are. And that is, be okay where you are right now. And I know on the surface, it sounds like, oh, you're just saying to accept this, that, or the other. And no, I'm not saying be comfortable where you are or be satisfied or settled where you are, but be okay where you are and understand that it's a part of the journey. And for me, trying to accept the fact that I'm a little bit older now. I ran the marathon at this point 7 years ago. So I'm 7 years older. Might not be able to get back to where I was, but be okay with the fact that I'm able to get up every day and go out and enjoy the fresh air. Or even when it comes to the podcast stuff, like be okay where I am right here. Where I was back in 2022 when I first started to where I am now. It's a huge improvement, a huge gain, and appreciate the journey of where, or I appreciate the journey of where I am now as opposed to where I started. Have some things lined up and on the horizon that I should be announcing in the next couple of weeks or so. But I'm not where I want to be, but I'm okay with where I am now, knowing that this is all part of the journey and I know where I'm going. And I think this can translate into any aspect of your life, whether you have weight loss goals or you're training for something and you want to hit a certain personal best at your work. If you have goals to move up the ladder or move on to do something else or to work on your own, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, financial goals, all of these things, it plays in. Be okay with where you are now and know that it's just a step along the journey and where you're heading. And don't lose sight of that. And I don't want this to be confused with settle with where you are. No, don't settle and don't be satisfied, but be okay with it, knowing that big picture, this is just where you are at this moment in time. So hopefully that can help you out as you go through your week. Like I said, it completely changed the whole direction of where I was going to go with this today, but it was something that I needed this morning it was like 4:45, I think, or 4:50, because it was very early on in the walk. And it just, like I said, I needed to hear that. And I'm like, all right, I can just shift things around, but be okay where you are. And just know that it's just all part of the journey, and look back now and use it as a stepping stone to move forward. And that is your Tuesday motivation and positivity for this week. All right, let's go back to Wilt. And yesterday's question of the day, I asked you, which is his most impressive feat? And I also said, let's keep it clean. However, many of you hit me up on the voice and text line and said his most incredible feat was 20,000. And if you know, you know. We're not going to go into details. It's hard to disagree with that, to be completely honest with you. But I should have prefaced it with most impressive feat on the basketball court. So 20,000, if you know, you know. Very impressive. Probably one of those things. And that's another one of his records that'll never be broken. But for the basketball feats, it was 75% of you said 100 points in a game. And while I think that's the most impressive, I can totally see it at some point, especially when we had the guys looking for 70s point games this year with Joe and then Luka. I have a feeling at some point somebody was going to get to 100. They're going to start off very, very hot. And just the way the NBA is, the other team, like, people are going to allow him to do that. I personally think averaging 50 points a game is pretty impressive. I think somebody might get close to a quintuple double at some point. That's impressive. And honestly, nobody's ever going to average more than 48 points a game or 48 minutes a game. It's just the way in today's NBA. And I think it's going to be hard to get to that 50 points because, yes, we have guys that can score 50 points a game, but nobody, and now I'm going to sound like the old man waving at the cloud, yelling at the cloud. Nobody is as dominant in today's game as Wilt was. And I would even go as far as say Jordan was not nearly as dominant as Wilt, Kareem, whoever you want to put in there. So I think that's probably going to be the one that's hard to break. Obviously, you never know. But averaging 50 points a game that's tough to do consistently. So, but as always, thanks for participating in the question today. Thank you to everyone who got through on the voice and text line and let me know that 20,000 was the magic number and the most impressive feat by Wilt. Again, hard to disagree with that, but I was thinking more in lines of on the basketball court, but 20,000 is 20,000. But 267-495-8531 gets you in on the voice and text line. We've been having a lot of fun on there. Guys just texting, girls texting, just their thoughts on the show, things like that. Again, a couple good conversations about 20,000 yesterday. So don't be left out. 267-495-8531. And as always, I always like to make sure I'm giving you the correct information. And I know I couldn't read my own writing yesterday, which is another old school thing I do. I should probably just type out my show notes. But for whatever reason, I write it out on just a legal pad and I sketch it out, use that. And somebody asked me one time too, I'm going to digress for a minute. Somebody asked me, a couple people actually, about the highlighter. And what I do is I highlight the topics so I know when things are going to come and my talking points and things like that. So that's why the highlighter's there. Anyway, all of that to say, so Wilt has the record for most points in a game, 100. We talked about his quintuple double yesterday. He also has the most rebounds in a game with 55. Assist was Scott Skiles, set in 1990. He had 30 assists in a game. Wilt's highest in his career was 24. I believe it was 24. Let me just make sure. 21. He had 21 in a game. And then for blocks, it was more of a recent stat that they started to keep. The record is 17 by Elmore Smith. Wilt obviously had 24 blocks the day he had his quintuple double, so he would have the record for that. And then the record for steals, which also wasn't an official stat when Wilt had his quintuple double, is 11, set by Kendall Gill in 99 and Larry Kennan in 1976. And as we know, Wilt had 11 when he had his quintuple double. So 4 of the 5 major record offensive or major categories, for stats, Wilt technically has the all-time record in. So that just goes to show how dominant he was. But I wanted to make sure because I know I was a little unclear yesterday on that. So there is all of that. Now, sticking with basketball. Good win for the Sixers yesterday, 98-91. The Heat were shorthanded. The Sixers were shorthanded. But this was a huge game in the standings. Maxey had 30 points, 10 rebounds. Kelly Oubre, 22 and 11 rebounds. And this game now puts them solidly in the 6th spot, which, ultimately, at this point, if you want to have a shot, I think, to make a run, you don't want to be in the play-in tournament because that means you're going to get Milwaukee or Boston if you tend to advance. So you want to get that 6th spot, and I think that also gives Joe time to come back and get acclimated and all that. They're only 2 games behind the Magic then for the 5th spot. Only they're a half game up on Indiana and a game up on Miami for the 8th spot. So they're still right there in the thick of things. They have a 4-game West Coast swing coming up where they play the Lakers, Kings, Suns, and Clippers. West Coast, and I've said it before, West Coast trips and swings are always tough for all the teams, but we'll see how they go. I think realistically they need to go 2 for 4. If they could go 3-1, I think that would be best. Obviously, we'd love for them to go 4-0, but I think realistically, if they go out there, split the next 4 games, I think they'll be in good shape. And by the time this road trip is over, we should have hopefully a better timeline and vision of what's going to happen with Joe when he comes back. So worth keeping an eye on. But you guys all know I hate the West Coast. Like I mean, it's bad enough I barely can stay up for a 7:30 game, but definitely will not be watching any of the West Coast games. Flyers in action tonight against the Maple Leafs. A huge game for them, especially considering the Maple Leafs blew them out last week. But as far as the standings, and things are really tightening up in the East as the season's winding down. Right now, the Flyers are firmly in the playoffs as the 3rd team in the Metro Division. But the Capitals are right there. They're only 1 point up on the Capitals. And then 3 points up on the Islanders. And then the Red Wings are out there lurking too, as it looks like Toronto is going to get the first wild card. So if the Flyers can't hang on to that 3rd spot, those are the 3 teams they're kind of in a battle with right now. So this game tonight is huge for the Flyers. I believe they're at home too, which might help. But at this point, they're in the season, they're all huge. But this one, as far as where they are in the standings and what's coming up, this is a very, very big game for the Flyers. I do have some Phillies news. They got roughed up a little bit yesterday by the Pirates. But Kristen Pache went 0 for 2. Jake Cave 1 for 3. And I think we're starting to get some clarity on where things are going to be for that. But, I don't know. It all depends on which way they decide to go. JT went 2 for 3. Castellanos, Stott, and Mundo Sosa each had a hit. But the big news was Orion Corcoran actually had the flu, whatever sickness was going through the team, and he got it really bad, and he might not be ready for opening day, which obviously you want to be as close to full strength as possible. But I think they'll be okay with the way everybody else has been pitching. So I want to make sure, if I was them, I would make sure he gets back and he's right where he needs to be when they come in. But we're still keeping an eye on the Pache Cave thing. They've been battling. Both of them have been balling out. So I'd be anxious to see which way Rob Thompson decides to go with that. All that as well, to be said, will be talked about on our Phillies preview, which will be coming up soon. Putting the final touches on that. I just want to make sure, again, I'm running like a fine line here because the Phillies start next Thursday. So I would like to record that at some point, have it up for, I don't know, Thursday of this week might be a little aggressive, but I'm working on it. So a lot's going to be determined on how the kids are after school and things like that. But stay tuned for that. As soon as it drops, I'll let you know. But again, the best way to stay in the loop is subscribe to the YouTube channel, and it gets delivered right to your inbox. And I will have a big announcement regarding the future of the podcast once I drop the Phillies preview. So stay tuned for that. Eagles news, Kenny Pickett met with the media. He said it's a good reset for his career. Again, I still don't really know how to feel about Kenny Pickett. He's an upgrade over Mariota. He's a backup quarterback. I don't know. And hopefully we're not put in a position where we got to see Kenny two gloves for an extended period of time. Because I can guarantee you the whole two gloves thing will get old very, very fast if he struggles. But again, it's a backup quarterback. It is what it is. I think we were spoiled the year we had Nick Foles. I don't know if you're ever going to really see that again. But hey, good for Kenny. He's coming home. The other big news is it's not official, but it seems as though the Eagles will open the season in Brazil against the Browns. One of the Browns players was on a podcast yesterday and leaked that they were playing in Brazil, although the NFL has not officially announced it. But it does seem like the Eagles are playing the Browns, which was one of the 3 teams I thought they would play anyway. I thought they would have put Pittsburgh in there, but you never know. And then Roger Goodell at this point might say, no, I think maybe we'll switch it and we'll put somebody else. So you never know, but it does seem like they're going to pay the Browns. And we're on another day without a Devontae Smith contract extension. Howie, make it happen. Let's go. I'm sure he has that money earmarked for him anyway, but just announce it, man. Come on. What are you waiting for? Just do it. Sign Smitty. You know what you should do? Go to phillygoat.com. And I've been telling you about the shoes. I can't wait for my 3 pair to come in the mail, and I'll be sure to show them off to you. But they got you covered from head to toe, whether it's hats, shirts, sweatpants, shoes, you name it, they got it. Go check it out. Get your Saquon stuff. If you're going down to Brazil, get the Saquon squats or the Saquon fly shirt, and just be ready. I don't know. Is it warm in Brazil during that time? I guess it would be springtime or late winter down there. Either way, it's close enough to the equator. It should be warm. Get the t-shirt, wear the loafers down there, and when you check out, use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off your order. That's phillygoat.com, promo code Jim Montgomery. Get your Saquon Barkley stuff to get ready for that Browns game in Brazil. Get your Philly stuff as we get ready for this season. You name it, they got it. I'm telling you, trust me on this. Go to phillygoat.com, use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off your order. All right, today we're going to go back to 1955, and on this day in 1955, the defending national champion LaSalle Explorers lost in the national championship game to the San Francisco Dons 77-63. The Dons were led by Casey Jones, who had 25 and 12, Bill Russell, who had 23 and 25, and basically Bill Russell was just too much to stop. Russell was a force on the defensive end when he wasn't blocking shots, which again back then was not an official stat. He was disrupting shots. He really went to battle with 3-time All-American Tom Gola and also a Philadelphia basketball legend. Gola held his own 16 and 18, but Bill Russell sometimes is considered one of the greatest, right up there with Wilt. So no harm in going 16 and 18 against Bill Russell for Tom Gola. You do know that Bill Russell, Casey Jones would also both end up playing on the Celtics, winning multiple championships with them. Tom Gola went and played for the Philadelphia Warriors. In this game, Bill Russell broke Tom Gola's record for most points in a tournament. He scored 118 points. It was only 5 games back then. I forget the numbers. I forget how many teams. It might have been 48. Either way, he played 5 games but broke the tournament scoring record. For those of you who like to keep track of this stuff at home, if you're anything like me, I'd be like, I wonder who has the most. Well, you don't have to look it up. I took the liberty to look it up for you. Glenn Rice had 184 points in the 1989 tournament, which currently is the record for most points scored in the NCAA tournament. To get to the final that year, LaSalle beat West Virginia, Princeton, Canisius, and Iowa, and just could not get the repeat done, and it was the last time LaSalle went to the Final Four. But this was like the heyday of the Big Five. I mean, LaSalle was national champion. Temple went to a couple Final Fours during this time period too, and Philadelphia was like the mecca of college basketball at this time, which is why teams like had the Warriors ended up moving to Philadelphia or out of Philadelphia, and the Sixers had time. The NBA was second in all of these markets to the NCAA, and Philly was the mecca at the time. So that leads to today's question of the day. This year, and I should have probably given this more airtime yesterday, this is the second straight year that there is not one of the 6 Division I basketball teams in Philadelphia in the NCAA tournament. Second year in a row, and until last year, the last time it happened was 1977. So the fact that there was 40-some years in between, and now we've done it 2 in a row, hard times here for Big Five basketball. And I think it's a fair question to ask. Yes, Temple went on the unexpected run. St. Joe's had a nice little run in the Atlantic 10, but St. Joe's won almost 20 games if they didn't win 20 this year, and they weren't even considered for an at-large bid. So I think it's a fair question to ask, but is the Big Five dead? 267-495-8531 get you in. And I know there's a lot of old school people out there who's like, that's sacrilegious, the Big Five. But let's have a real talk, real conversation about it. Is the Big Five dead? Personally, I think it is. I think this whole tournament that they're trying to run is nice. But until you have consistently the players, like nobody from Philly goes to any of the Philly schools really anymore. None of the top players anyway. Like Tom Gola went to LaSalle. Like those guys all stayed local and went to their schools, and you're not seeing this anymore. And is the Big Five dead? 267-495-8531. Get you in. Let me know what you're thinking. All right, finally today, our Philly Sports Women's History Spotlight of the Day. Speaking of a legend in Philly basketball, Yolanda Laney, who was a Philly Public League legend and an All-American in college. She started at University City and took them to 3 Public League championships. She was a 2-time Public League Player of the Year and a high school All-American her senior year. From there, she went to Cheney State, and in her 4 years there, led them to 4 Final Eights, 2 Final Fours, and 1 championship game. In 1982, she was the East Regional and Final Four on the East Regional and Final Four all regional team or all tournament teams, I should say. When she was at Cheney State, that year, it was the first HBCU and only up until this point to play in a Final Four and a championship game. 2 years later, she led them to their second Final Four in 3 years. She was the most outstanding player of the East Regional that year and a Kodak All-American. Cheney State was coached by legendary coach Vivian Stringer, who is a Hall of Famer in her own right. But Yolanda Laney is in the Cheney Sports Hall of Fame as well as the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. Had a great career in criminal justice, and I know she does some coaching and things like that. But just one of the best to ever do it. And served as an inspiration for Dawn Staley. A few years ago, Dawn Staley wore her jersey in Yolanda Laney jersey in I'll get it out, in the tournament to celebrate the fact that I believe it was one of the anniversaries of, I think it was 2022. It was the anniversary of the first time that Cheney State went to the Final Four. But up until this point, the first and only HBCU school, both men's and women's, to get to the Final Four. So shout out to you, Yolanda Laney, today's Philly Sports Women's History Month Spotlight of the Day. An absolute legend and one of the best to come out of Philadelphia. On this day in 1955, LaSalle lost to San Francisco 77-63 in the national championship game, ending their bid to be a repeat national champion. Be sure to answer my question of the day. Is the Big Five dead? And try to react with emotion, or not with emotion, logic, not emotion, because I know some people get all fired up when you talk about Philly basketball. Rightfully so. I'm a huge Philly basketball guy. I would love for the Big Five to be like how it was in its heyday. Hell, I'd give the Big Five to be like how it was in the late 90s, early 2000s when you had the teams kind of making the tournament. You get 3 of 4 teams. Sometimes you get 4 of the 6 teams. Like, I would love to go back there. But is it dead? 267-495-8531. Get you in. Be sure to check out our friends over at Philly Goat. Let's hope the Flyers can win a big one tonight against the Maple Leafs. They need the points, so as many as they can get. But remember, just be okay with where you are right now and know that it's just a part of the journey, and keep focus on your end goal. And as you go through your week, just kind of keep that in mind. Whatever's happening, it's okay to be where you are right now as long as you don't lose sight of where you're going. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History. I'm Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Tuesday. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.